Hey everybody, really excited to speak with Zach today, who is crushing it as an SDR. We're going to dive into a lot of the things that have made you successful. Obviously, you're part of our SDR Accelerator community, and we'll definitely dive into that. But I love your story, coming from a completely different career, transitioning into sales in the first place. Maybe set the stage as to what you were doing when you got into tech sales, and we'll start to take it from there.
Yeah, I'm not super far into my career, but I had spent the past 4 years as a data analyst. It's what I went to college for, information science and business management systems, graduate. And I had always been interested in sales, but you put in 4 years of college, there's the expectation that you come out and you do something with it. So ended up starting my business analyst journey with an insurance company, was around a ton of sellers working directly with their sales team. And so that kind of opened my eyes to it, but they did a lot of B2C and it didn't seem like an industry style that I was really interested in. So just kind of put that by the wayside, kept moving on, ended up doing data analytics for 3 years after that with a big environmental services company. Really appreciate the company's mission and being, green and just like a pro environment company. It's always good to be around a company that has a good mission. But the longer I did analytics, the more bored I get of it. I didn't really enjoy looking at stuff after work that pertained to it. And I could tell that the people that were best at the job were people that were just like very interested in the work. They kept up on the Microsoft blogs, they kept up on the new trends and everything. And I just didn't care that much. I spent most of my free time looking at business and sales content because my parents were entrepreneurs. It's always been something I'm interested in. And so that's kind of where the bug started coming back up. I looked into it for probably 9 months before I took it seriously. My company ended up getting bought out by private equity. If anyone's familiar with that transition, it comes with a huge culture change and a lot of changes of environment and compensation, everything that just didn't really jive with where I wanted to go. So from there, it was really just a choice of, do you want to keep grinding it out in a salary position where your only pay increases come with tenure and not really skill? It doesn't matter how much work you put in because there's always going to be, a new carrot dangling as to a new performance goal you have to hit. Or do I want to really just take the leap and try sales out? I figured worst case is I give it a good run for, 90 days, see where I'm at, put it out for 6 months, and absolute worst case, you go back to data analytics. But so from there, I started looking into different ways to get in. I'm a big proponent of coaching. I think that all the best athletes, all the best creators, all the best anything have always had coaches to help them along the way. So I was looking for a good coaching program. I had followed high levels on YouTube and followed a lot of the content there. And I was like, well, let me look into the reviews. The reviews were always stellar. You don't really see anyone complain at all. So I was like, all right. And for the price, I haven't still seen a course that allowed you to get in and get one-on-one time and get even group time for the price that you guys do. It's honestly incredible. And the value, it was also incredible. So I started with the accelerator, the break-in, or not the accelerator, but the ascension to break in. It was super helpful. I landed 3 interviews in my second week in the course. By a month in the course, I had the offer. Well, I had like 2-3 offers, but I settled on the offer that I'm at now. And that was 30 days in. I was like, well, shoot, that was incredible. Everyone talks up the accelerator. Surely there's gold in there. And for finishing Ascension, I got a discount on it. So I was like, that's even better. So I pulled the trigger on that. And man, that's like 3 times the amount of information there. And so it was a little slog getting through it at first. I was like, all right. But at the beginning of it, you're like, jump around to the pieces that make the most sense. So since I was new, I went straight to cold calling frameworks, cold outreach frameworks, and how to introduce myself with my AEs. And I think the latter piece of that was really the absolute gold for me. I don't know if it's common, but I see it a lot in my company where there's just not a deep relationship between the BDRs and the AEs. And I found that the BDRs that were the most successful, that were consistently the top of the board, all of them had incredible relationships with their AEs. And I was like, all right, well, there's got to be something to that. So being from data analytics, both my AEs were a little gun shy with me at first. They're like, I don't know how long this kid's going to last. We don't know anything about his skill. Like, I'll take it conservative. So they gave me a few accounts that they hadn't been able to break into in 6 months to a year, and then they gave me a closed lost report like, hey, if you can track down any of this, cool. If not, here's a couple accounts that have been hit a bajillion times, good luck. So I was really targeted and was putting in about 150 to 200 dials a day, just trying to break ground. Got them about 2 closed loss for one and 3 closed loss for the other, brought them back to the table and got them going back into the pipeline, and then broke into a couple companies that they hadn't been able to. So from there, the relationship blossomed. They're like, all right, this guy's got chops. And I've been able to work really closely with them. So I've gotten expansion accounts from them. I've gotten full on alley-oops where my AE will be like, hey, got a hold of this guy. He's the director of this whole field that we're calling into. Call into his subordinates, use his name, and I'll get like 2 meetings off that. And it's like, he didn't have to do that. He could have just, called the guy himself. But they're way more willing to give you those alley-oops and help you out since then. So that's kind of where I'm from up to where I'm at now, if that answered everything.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Super comprehensive, and I think a ton of great things to probe into as well. Like I love to hear that, and I think it's really reaffirming from you to hear that, because that's one of the things that we saw when we were looking at content is, sure, we can talk about how to cold call, we can talk about how to email, but when you're actually in seat, separate of breaking in, there's just so many little things you can do to really go from maybe on your own, you could piece it together over 6 months and hit 100%. We want to accelerate that time frame, but additionally, there's little things, whether it's relationships internally and just understanding that entire roadmap and everything that goes into it that really sets you apart. That's kind of where maybe 1 or 2 more questions are coming from. Of you join this company, you're looking at their training as well, I'm sure. Could you maybe highlight for someone that's considering external training, what do you feel like it maybe equipped you with that just the standard company training didn't include for one reason or another, if anything comes to mind?
Yeah, I think that most companies, unless you're like, I'm still with technically a startup. We're going for Series C this year. So we're a fairly small, even if we're valued pretty big. But like, I would say the vast majority of companies are going to have some sort of sequencing script outreach that they're going to want you to play at the beginning. So when I was looking for external training, you're looking for things that are kind of those intangibles, like you said, like the things that make you successful, but aren't necessarily just giving you a template or a framework for outbound and saying good luck. And so like a lot of things in the course, AE relationships, how to, log all your success so that you're prepared for the next role and you have your stuff with you that's like, hey, these are kind of the benchmarks I've had. These are the accolades that I've gotten. Like I keep a Notion page that's just like, I got top performer of the week last year, last week, so that went into my Notion page. Like things like that all make a big difference. And until you're like in the seat doing the outbound, you don't really know what you need help with. You could go get outbound help for cold calling, but then you get in the seat and you're like, well, the coaching that I got for this isn't really how we do it, and they're really successful in the way they do it, so I'm just going to emulate that. Same for any other outbound. Versus those more intangibles, the systems to put in place, how to manage your time effectively, how to block your time effectively. I think those are what I took the most from out of the accelerator course that really set me apart and allowed me to get those systems in place early that lead to that consistent production and consistent success.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, I love to hear that. And that's exactly where we realized there was truly a gap in many different ways. But credit to you for taking full advantage. I know it's one thing to have access to something, but to actually implement it successfully, get really quick results is really great. Maybe just in closing, if there's any other advice you'd give to your younger self or things, I know you're not even a year into your journey, but already seeing a lot of quick success. Anything, reflection that you think you would do differently, or just give advice to anyone that's out there looking at higher levels or just trying to really excel as an SDR?
Honestly, if I had one big takeaway to tell my younger self, it would be make the jump. Just make it sooner. I spent a lot of time contemplating it. I spent a lot of time weighing the pros and cons, and it was on my heart to change, but I couldn't get my brain on board. And I think a lot of times in those situations, you really just have to take the leap of faith. Like the absolute worst thing to happen is you go back and do the line of work that you're already in. But the best thing to happen is you take in the coaching, you absorb the material, you put it into action like you know you're supposed to, and you see success, you see results. Maybe not super fast, maybe it takes you 3 months, but you're still happier at the end of the day. And I would tell myself a year, 2 years ago, like, hey, make the jump. You'll enjoy your days more. And that's probably my biggest takeaway, honestly. And get coaching. Again, big, huge proponent of coaching. I think it speeds up and expedites the process a ton. And you can piece that stuff together, but if you're trying to save time, the money comes back to you hand over fist.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It very much resonates with my own journey as well. Procrastinating and kind of putting it off for 3 years. In reality, I should have done it in less than one, if not right when I graduated. So no, it's awesome to see. Yeah, I'm sure we could keep talking about it. I know we're in the middle of your workday here, so I appreciate all the time and insight. And yeah, for anyone that wants to reach out to Zach, if you're cool with it, I'll link your LinkedIn. But just know that he's not obligated to respond in any way, shape, or form, especially if you ask a horrible question like, how did you break into tech sales? But no, this was great, Zach. Like, obviously love to see the success, and like credit to you at the end of the day for putting in the work. Really great conversation. And unless there's anything else, appreciate the time.
No, I think that's everything. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so I promise I will try to get back to anyone that gets back to me, but business is business.
Yeah, but yeah.